Welcome everyone, it's Michael DeHaan from Care to Grow, and I've got Lea Schodel with me this morning. How are you, Lee?
Hi, Michael. Really well, thank you.
That's right, and thanks for being on my Women's Empowerment series, interviewing women around how they've used their voice and visibility to create change and follow their passion. And I know we're going to talk a bit about that soon. So again, thank you for coming on the series and adding value to women, really.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So just by way of introduction, so Lee's a mindful wealth holistic money coach and financial wellness consultant. You've had your own business, Mindful Wealth, for 6.5 years. A little bit of a brag, I did stalk you. So you're the winner of the 2017 AFA Female Excellence in Advice. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And also you're the co-founder of her platform. So I'd be interested to know a little bit more about that. And just on a personal note, I've known Lee for over 2 years now. She taught me I had the same background as her in regard to financial planning, and she taught me into coming on this course, I'm going to say almost 2 years ago, in regard to behaviour around money, and did that course and went down that pathway of supporting people around their beliefs and behaviours around money. So thank you for that. And Lee's actually coached me personally, so I can vouch for Lee's skills and talents in this area. So again, thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
What I'd like to do to begin with anyway is just get to know you a little bit better yourself. So before we go through anything else, so what's the Lee story?
How long do we have? No, I'm kidding. The Lee story is the short version of the Lee story. Okay. Where do I start? I did fall into financial advice basically after finishing business management. I studied business management, kind of fell into financial services, not really specifically choosing it as a career path. But once I got in it, started to really enjoy it and studied full time to get my qualifications to become a financial advisor. Worked full time as well, and kind of just moved my way up through the different positions and eventually opened up my own practice. Really enjoyed it, but felt that I was only helping people so far. And I kind of had these same conversations and these same situations presenting every time a client came into my office. And it really got me thinking that perhaps there was more to learning and dealing with money than just the advice piece. And that got me really curious. I actually went and studied yoga and mindfulness and personal development and a whole range of other kind of seemingly non-related topics, but as it turns out, they have a lot to do with finance. Yeah. And I kind of kickstarted this journey down a rabbit hole around behavioral psychology of money and looking at really empowerment, personal empowerment through the use of money as a tool to create the life that we want to live.
So were you looking at it initially for you in regard to your personal growth and where you'd come from?
Yeah, I think personally in my own situation, looking at my own relationship with money, I knew what to do with money, having been a financial advisor, and I knew all of the what's and how's, but actually applying a lot of these things to my own life and looking at my own habits and my own emotions around money, I had a whole lot of blocks and situations as well. And that really got me, triggered me to think, gee, if I'm having all of this trouble and I should know better, then what is everybody else doing? So it got me really interested in the concept around there's got to be more than meets the eye. There's got to be more than the surface level. There's got to be something deeper going on. And that sort of started the fascination, I guess.
Yeah. And you're quite a passionate person. So we're actually doing some work together around financial abuse, which we might touch on later. But and that being that passionate that you actually also get out there and use your voice and visibility. So in different things that you do. I don't know whether you want to talk about some of the women groups you support or even that her platform, but I think that what I want to, I suppose, share with you, as I said, that it's all good to have the passion, but if you don't use that passion and use your voice and visibility, no one will know you. But you're obviously getting out there and creating change.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I used to be quite introvert. I am quite introverted and shy, but I've got this kind of concept in my mind that the message is bigger than what anyone thinks about me. And I have a real passion around empowerment of women, particularly in financial empowerment. And I would have never really thought years ago that I would be in this space empowering women, but it kind of makes sense. I'm a triplet. I've got two brothers. I grew up with the sense that everything they could do, I wanted to do as well, if not better than them. So I've always had this kind of gender equality viewpoint without really realizing it. But definitely these days, my passion is empowerment of women around finances. And I also have a real interest and keen passion around supporting women coming out of domestic violence. And that sort of stemmed a long time ago, probably around the same time I started my business. I joined the board of a nonprofit called the Centre for Women, which provides holistic counselling services and wellbeing services for women experiencing DV or coming out of DV.
Yeah.
And as part of serving on that board, we decided that it required a social enterprise because it was mostly government funded. We wanted to create a more sustainable revenue stream. And that kind of brought about the Her platform, the birth of Her platform that was co-created with 2 other women. And that was about 3 years ago. So that's a beautiful social enterprise supporting women by a range of products and workshops that really empower women into coming out of DV. So it's a beautiful cause.
Yeah, yeah. And what I heard you, what I picked up anyway, is that being that introvert, but the mission was bigger than you in a sense there. So you could sort of differentiate yourself to, your passions, your mission. So in regard to women that are maybe looking at what their mission is, or because they, without knowing that, and I think maybe even with yourself being an introvert without having a strong mission there, you might, as I said, be a bit quieter or not show up the way you have. What would be some tips for women to actually understand maybe what drives them, or what their vision is, or what their passion is? How do they look inside? Or...
It's a really good point, and I think we all hear this kind of mantra: find your purpose, find your mission. And I think our missions come in so many different forms, and they may be something at home, they may be something in the community, they may be something in the workspace, or maybe creative outlet. It can be big or small. It doesn't have to be to save the world, but it can be something that you're very passionate about. And I think beginning by looking at the areas of particular interest to you, maybe social causes or family matters or a community aspect or a creative outlet that you're really passionate about, and starting there and just exploring, what is it that I'm so passionate about? Just why does it spark something in my heart? Why does it intrigue me? And just exploring that as a starting point.
Yeah, and that's great advice. I appreciate that. And I think something that I'd like to ask you anyway, in regard to, I suppose, the yoga practices where we've all got busy minds. So we've got a vision, a mission, something we're passionate about, and then we get blindsided by something else there. We've got 20 things going on in our minds. So if you're able to sort of slow that process, might that be easy to find really what your true passion is, or what's going to bring you that joy and happiness in your life?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In amongst all the noise, we can't find what it is because we're too distracted. So those moments of stillness, whether it be the 5 minutes you have before taking the kids to school, or the 10 minutes you go before bed, or just walking along the beach, or just any moment that you have some stillness, just to kind of tap in. And journaling as well is a great practice. If you don't have a meditation practice, then journaling can be a great practice as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Now, I know you've done some workplace sort of financial wellness in regard to engaging employees and giving them some tools and strategies around financial stress. And getting into these workplaces, I suppose, I don't know whether they're male dominated, I'm going to hence the question there, but how did you sort of show up, or how did you sort of, one, get into those practices? Because there's a lot of ego there in the sense that our business is fine. We do everything, we look after our employees as an example. And I think it's just great maybe to learn some of the skills that you used, or whether that's just your drive, your competition as a person.
Yeah, I am very competitive. I think that comes from being a triplet, competing for attention. But no, I am very competitive. But I think displaying the need is, whilst employers may think that their employees are fine, I would say that the research begs a difference. We know that stress is the number one cause of a lot of problems in society and individuals. It's also in the employee workplace productivity and mental health, and looking at what's the number one cause of stress, it's generally finances. So that has been a real key driver for me to talk to employers, to say, well, one, it's really impacting your employees' mental health and their performance at work, which bottom line also impacts your productivity as well as your profitability. So sort of say those magic keywords and doors sometimes open.
Exactly right, exactly right. So I'm going to ask a question about Lee, a young Lee. What sort of message or what advice would you give her in regard to, I suppose, going down that pathway in a smoother way about using your voice and visibility as a woman?
So funny. I hated public speaking as a child. I've got a naturally very husky voice. I can't project my voice very loudly. I used to get berated in my public speaking speech contest because I was always so quiet. And now that public speaking and professional speaking is part of my career, I've learned that you don't have to be loud to make a point, and you can make a point and be powerful just by being self-centered, calm, and having a presence that's more grounded. That was a real learning curve for me because I was always thinking that in order to be a good speaker or to have a voice, then I had to be someone that I wasn't.
Yes.
And the moment that I realized that it's actually just, it's okay to be me, and it's okay that I'm not this super extroverted, loud comedian on stage. I can still have an impact just the way I am. That really shifted the way that I showed up and the way that I presented, and took a lot of pressure off me having to be something that I'm not, I guess.
Yeah, that's great advice. That authenticity, and that shines through.
Thank you.
And I'd love to, we've, as I said, just started doing a bit of work together around financial abuse. We did our first clubhouse last night, so that was great. So we've ticked that box, and we'll continue to do them. But I just wanted to sort of ask you to share a bit about that cause, or just to, as I said, that little bit of a light. I know I'm taking this opportunity to do it, but it'd be great if you just for, say, 2 minutes, just talk about, why you wanted to get involved in that. When I reached out to you, you jumped on board in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I did. And I think it's because we talk about financial abuse, and many people don't understand what it is and how prevalent it is. And I'm working in a space which supports women in domestic violence situations. And a lot of the time, a precursor to a very violent situation is often financial abuse, or emotional abuse, financial abuse, and then it becomes physical abuse as well, and verbal abuse. But it's really important to me that we educate and we look at how we can reduce this as a problem, because it really quite shocked me is how common it is. And I know we've spoken about this, Michael, quite a bit, and I don't know the exact statistics, but almost like 1 in 10 women.
It's actually 16% of women. So it's getting close to 1 in 5, very close to 1 in 5. Yeah.
1 in 5 women, and I know a high number of men as well experience financial abuse. And for me, it's about, one, if we can't define it, then we're not going to be able to really work through the problem and support people. But also more of a preventative look at it. How can we stop it happening in the future rather than focus on just fixing what's already been done? So I'm really passionate about preventative measures. I'm really passionate about building capability. So not just putting knowledge out there to the world, but actually helping people with the skills and the confidence to really look at these kind of matters. So when you mentioned that you were interested in it, it was sort of a new space. I think definitely work needs to be done here, and I'm keen to be involved.
Yeah. So thank you for being a part of this series, and I think you can sort of resonate and feel the energy and the passion with Lee. As I said, you don't need that big loud voice as an example. You just need to be authentic and be true within yourself, and then what comes out, how you speak, will just be so natural. People will gravitate towards that. So that's been a great learning from me, and as I said, your passion for a cause is also a great learning, and I'm sure women will learn from that, from the journey and some of your stories that you shared today.
Thanks, Michael. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for being a part of the series. I appreciate it.